So, since I decided to reboot my Thomas AU, the first thing that came to my mind was to redo my take of 98462. So, for those I don't know, 98462 was one of many background engines seen in the Railway series, specifically the first book known as the Free Railway Engines. He was only featured in one story, which was Edward's Day Out, where in the story itself, he was seen to be one of the engines who bullied Edward for being old and out of date, as well as not being in service. Sometime after that story, he was sent away. So there's an alternate interpretation of 98462 that's become very popular with fans. This alternate interpretation would turn out to be Alfred the Holden B12 by Scalori 123. He was first popularized when Sodor Dark Times came out, and became even more popularized when Thomas I, Edward II, and Henry III made his own series called NWR Origins, where in said series, 98462, or Alfred as he was known in that series, arrived to the Northwestern Railway on trial, but was going to be sent away due to his rude behavior. Eventually, this made him go insane and prompted him to try and take the life of NWR number 3 and 4, Henry and Gordon. So personally, 98462 trying to kill other engines, for me, it feels very offlandish. So I decided to do something a little different, or should I say very different. So my ideal 98462 is indeed a Great Eastern design. However, I wouldn't say she's an actual S69 later reclassified B12, but happens to look identical to the class. In my universe, she was James Holden's attempt at building an outside cylinder 460 in 1910. For express passenger service to replace the Claudes. This was before the S69s were even built in 1911. However, being experimental, 98462 didn't succeed in handling express work, let alone local passenger trains. So she was demoted to goods work. In 1920, a new class of locomotives were being built on the Great Eastern. These engines were known as D81s. In 1921, 98462 would befriend one of these engines, who would turn out to be James' Red Engine after he was purchased by the NWR in 1925. When the NWR was formed in 1918 after World War I, goods work was piling up on the engines who were working there. So, 98462 and James were loaned for 5 years, where they meet the current fleet. Both her and James would tackle goods trains very often. In 1925, after James was purchased, 98462 was sent back to the newly formed LNER, London Northeastern Railway, where he would serve as one of its goods engines until the end of 1934, when she was withdrawn. While at the scrapyards, the Northwestern Railway's first controller, Sir Edward Topham Hatt I, would come across the engine itself. With Sir Edward recognizing the engine who was loaned to him, he purchased 98462 as a substitute for NWR 203, Henry Garrison, after his infamous crash with the Flying Kipper. After she arrived at Sodor and at Crone's Gate, due to the fact she didn't have a tender since it was scrapped, she was converted into a tank locomotive, changing her wheel configuration into a 4-6 tank. In addition, she was named Sigurd Arsdale, a lady wise and brave with a bow and arrow. She would tackle goods trains on the main line until she was relocated to the Normanby branch line in 1940 to help with the war effort when World War II occurred. So here's 98462 in her GR condition, and here's 98462 after being purchased, rebuilt, repainted, and renamed by the NWR, even though she's a tank locomotive.